How's it going, everyone? It's Juan Romero here from Switchwatch. I hope you're all well and I hope you're enjoying all the extra content. Jordan's decided to join us on a full-time basis, which of course we're really excited about. Today I've got the review of World to the West. You may remember I did a preview about a month ago on this one. This was developed and published by Rain Games and they gave us a copy for review purposes, so thank you to those guys. Let's see if this game then is worth your hard-earned cash. Let's get into it. World to the West is the second game from Rain Games to land on the Switch and is a sequel of the excellent Teslagrad and takes place in the same universe, albeit further into the future. Here the story is centered around 4 characters, all of which you will be able to take control of within the game and all have their own chapters. Put simply, each character has had something taken away from them, and each of these items in the wrong hands will help our baddie dominate the world. You will get introduced to each of them and spend time with each one, learning their motivations. A little later in the game the characters all meet one way or another, and there is dialogue, but not enough to really flesh out the story, which in my view is a shame. You control each character one by one and learn more as you go on. One thing to note is while there is not always enough dialogue, the dialogue which is there is often quite humorous, and each character has its own personality, which again, Rain Games could have made a lot more of. The story here starts really strongly and gets you intrigued from the beginning, but unfortunately I feel it was a missed opportunity to really build upon that strong start. One issue I always have personally when a story is being told from 4 different points of view or angles is how they intertwine together and how it can become a little bit frustrating when you're just finding out a little bit more about your character only to have to jump to someone else's story. I find it all a little bit jarring at times. It comes together rather nicely in the end, but it's just not my favoured way of a story being told. However, this is my own personal taste and may not reflect your feelings. In terms of the audio, the music is actually really pleasant and there's nothing you will listen to here which you're going to find inoffensive. The atmosphere created is excellent and was one of the strongest parts of this game. I do wish that the characters had been voice acted. It would have added a lot more to this game's audio, if done well of course. Having reviewed Fury recently, it's often taken for granted how much it can add to the game when done well. Sound effects from Clonington turning and breaking down doors to the kid digging holes to go underground all sound decent enough. My personal favourite though is when taking control of Miss Teri, as she uses mind control over creatures, and I can only describe one of the creatures as a red squirrel, but the sound it makes when jumping over ledges is really cute. Everything is done really well here and it fits the artsy style of the game, which defines the studio, Rain Games. In terms of visuals and performance, the visuals here are of course very different to Teslagrad, which was a 2D game, whereas this is a 3D top-down game, much like Zelda games back in the day. This is a very artsy game and it's what Rain Games are known for. The character models look rather good and animations really fit into this game style really well. I did find though that in some areas of the game the colours were not as vibrant as I was expecting, and there were some places where the environments looked a little bit drab and lacked a bit of punch. For every area like this though, you would often come across a really nice looking area like flower beds where the flowers would move when walking across them, or finding waterfalls in the background, which all added to the overall experience. The game ran smoothly for the majority of the time I spent with it, and I didn't notice any slowdown either in handheld mode or in docked mode, which of course is great news. In terms of gameplay, World to the West is a game with lots of puzzles to solve, which I found the most fun and entertaining aspect of this game. Each character has a range of differing skills which will be best suited to each puzzle. Much like a key, you can only unlock certain areas with the right character chosen and using the correct skill to open up more of that map. An example of this is when I had to use Miss Teri to mind control some small creatures to do her bidding, which may have been collecting a special item or key so she can get through a door. It could have also been controlling an enemy, a bigger beast which she couldn't kill herself, and making them jump over a cliff or into the water. Very cruel, I know. The little kid can be used to go through small openings to reach other side of walls, or he can use his digging skills to go underground and reach inaccessible areas, and Lord Clonington is a beast of a man and is used to break down doors to get through previously inaccessible areas using brute strength. There is of course some more to this game, but I don't want to spoil it all for you here. Each of the 4 characters feels different enough and are nice to control. There may be times when you get stuck as you'll be unsure what to do, and the game doesn't always point you in the right direction even though there is a pointer on the map. Now I was fine figuring it out, but some may find it a little bit frustrating from time to time. It's all about remembering what skills you have with each character at your disposal and using them at the right time. Now, World to the West is an open world exploration game, as the developers have explained. Now, there is an element of exploration in the game, and you will find secrets from time to time where there'll be a chest to open, but it's not quite as exciting as finding a rare item or a piece of gear. Here, there isn't any real need for that stuff, but it would have been a great addition. The game can be explored overground, but there are times in the game where you'll have to explore underground to reach other areas of the map. Now, although the game is linear, it does do a good job of giving you the impression that it isn't quite so, as you can go off the beaten path from time to time. In the end though, you'll always have to come back to recover a key to push the story forward, or a certain item. Now, in terms of totems in this game, they are your best friend, as they allow you to save the game and also to swap between characters. Now, as you open up parts of the map, it gives you the ability to fast travel between areas and exploring parts at a time, and I do like that you can fast travel. Swapping between characters though can feel like a very laborious affair, and it feels a real pain at times. Now, if you find a totem with one character, then only that character can travel to that totem. If you want another character to travel, you'll have to traverse that same area with those characters, so in essence you'd have to repeat the same parts of the map with each character. There's far too much backtracking for my liking, and because of this, it did take away some of my enthusiasm for the game. Now, the combat also is really not that challenging, although there are some clever parts. For example, the little kid can't really fight, so he's a little boy, uses a shovel, and he runs into small tunnels to get away. Each character has their strengths when dealing with enemies, but I never felt like it was the most meaningful part of the game. There were some parts which were a little bit more imaginative, but in all, the combat and variation in enemies was a disappointment, and so were the bosses for me. In terms of depth, you can unlock abilities for characters in the game, and there are collectibles such as health shrines and batteries and necessary items to move the story forward and reach other areas. For example, ice skates, which allows the kid to traverse over water areas. I feel there could have been a bit more depth here added to the game, which would have made it more rewarding overall. One aspect I found really lacking was the lack of quests, for example, which would have been a fun diversion from time to time. In terms of controls, they are solid. It's a joy to control each character, and I found this to be one of the best parts of the game. Each of the characters feels good to control, and they're all different enough to have fun with. It's all very simple, and with each character they have their own set of moves, and you use B and Y, and these are the main buttons that you'll need for each one. So let's talk about value. The game gives you 8 hours of solid gameplay for £17.99 or $19.99 respectively. I found the adventure to be pleasant, but at this price there is a lot of competition on the Switch eShop. If you are looking for an adventure game, then this is certainly one to consider along the likes of Blossom Tales and Oceanhorn. However, for me there's a real lack of pulling power to want to go back and explore this for a second time, as you can see most of this game in one sitting. So on to my verdict. World to the West is a decent sequel from Rain Games, but I can't help feeling it could have been something more. Everything here is pretty well made, and it's to a decent enough standard. I thoroughly enjoyed the puzzles, exploration, and finding out a little bit more about each of the 4 characters. I don't want to spoil the story, but it wasn't as good as it could have been, and was lacking in depth for me. The combat wasn't challenging, and it felt like it was just there to slow you down rather than being a meaningful part of the game. Although this game has its flaws, overall it's a decent effort, an adventure you are sure to enjoy. Definitely then from me a 7 out of 10. And if you enjoyed this video, which I hope you have, then please think about hitting that thumbs up button, possibly subscribing if you're a new watcher here, and of course leave me a comment letting me know your thoughts on this review, this game, or any other Nintendo Switch game. I want to thank all of our existing subscribers for continuing to support us. Really hope you're enjoying the extra content. We've added Jordan to the video production team, which we're really happy about because it means we can bring you more content. My name's Juan Romero. You know what I'm going to say, guys. I'll see you on the next one.